Hi, my name is Miller Lashbrook, and welcome to Miller the Movie Guy. Mill. So over the past couple years, diversity in front of and behind the camera has been a hot button topic in Hollywood. So today we're going to look at what has made some certain films in the past year or so be successful, and was it the behind the camera talent or their social media presence or maybe a mixture of both. Based on my research, I'm going to implement some ideas myself, and we're going to see that later in this video. So I want to talk about 4 movies from the past year that really have felt the impact of this new wave of diverse talent and diverse storytelling, and really have made a lot of money in the box office because of it. And that's going to be Wonder Woman, Beauty and the Beast, Coco, and of course, Black Panther. Now the first movie of the set that I'm going to talk about is of course Beauty and the Beast. Now this movie is a little bit different because it was a property by Disney made in the 90s, and it was a remake in live action of this. So it had a little bit of a head start going forward compared to some of the other movies on this list. But I think the real strong argument that it has, for my research at least, is that Bill Condon, the director of the new live action Beauty and the Beast, is a gay man. So his creative voice behind the camera, like, what did that lend to the movie? Well, of course, we know that a couple weeks before the film came out, there was some controversial news that LeFou was going to be a gay character in the film, and I'm sure that is something that Bill Condon had a big take in putting into the movie. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community myself, when I saw this movie in theaters, it really meant a lot to me that it was not only directed by someone from my community and they were able to put their creative stamp on such a Disney classic, but also that they were able to maybe extend their reach a little bit and put in a storyline that maybe would have not get put in the movie if it were being directed by a straight man. While yes, this storyline may have turned some conservative viewers away, I think that the curiosity about how a gay character was going to be represented in a Disney movie brought more viewers in, and that helped to get the movie to be one of the most successful movies of the 2017 box office. The next movie that I want to talk about on our list is, of course, Wonder Woman. Now, Wonder Woman has been a staple of pop culture since before I was born, and for a long time, ever since Linda Carter played her on the television series, and even since she was a comic book character made by DC. Her popular culture reach has at times even reached further than, say, Superman or Batman or Spider-Man, some of the most prominent superheroes in pop culture. And she didn't even get her own live-action movie until just last year. Now, of course, many comic book fans and just movie fans alike were very worried about Wonder Woman going into it because of the sketchy box office track record. The sketchy box office track record of the DC films recently, but the week of, when it came out that it had a Rotten Tomatoes score in terms of the 90s talent behind the camera in Wonder Woman, it was directed by a woman, and the script was also helmed by a gay man. Wonder Woman over the years has really meant a lot to the LGBT community, especially since she's from an island full of women, and in the comics it has been explored that she is interested in both men and women in the past. So she's really a feminist icon, but also an icon to the LGBTQ plus community as well. And so having that perfect combination of a female director and a writer that is a gay man, it really combined to like the perfect storm. Whereas I know that the writing of the story was really helmed by the writer, and he really incorporated this Little Mermaid kind of Disney princess aspect into the story, and I feel like that was a really integral part to making the Wonder Woman story feel something familiar, but also something new. Wonder Woman went on to be pretty successful week after week at the box office, and was really a staple of last summer's box office, and was ultimately one of the highest grossing films of the 2017 box office as well. The next movie that I want to talk about is, of course, Coco. So this came out in November. Coco, a Pixar animated film about Dia de los Muertos. Now, I myself am not a part of the Mexican or Latino community, but I think that the news and box office surrounding this film spoke for itself. Now, of course, Coco did not make as much money as the other movies that we're talking about today, but I think what really made it step above everything else was how much money it made in the Mexican box office. That really speaks to how much research they put in before making the movie and really the care that they took when they were creating this cultural film. The next and final movie that I want to talk about is, of course, Black Panther. So out of all the movies that I'm talking about, Black Panther is the one that has come out the most recently, but really you can't go anywhere without hearing about this movie in the past couple months. It came out right around Valentine's Day in February, and it is still in the top 10 box office in the beginning of April. At first, we knew that Black Panther was going to do well because of it being a Marvel movie, and they traditionally do very well. But once that Rotten Tomatoes score came out with a 98% that opening week, then people were really impressed. Critics are not always the ones that are going to decide how well a movie does. It's of course the audience who actually goes to see it. And so in addition to that Rotten Tomatoes score coming out the week of, we also found out that it had an A+ cinema score, and those are people who got to see the movie in early showings or the initial week, and that really rocketed this movie forward. So some numbers that I want to talk about. Black Panther grossed the highest February opening weekend of all time, beating out the previous winner, Deadpool. And it also has the 5th highest 3-day gross of all time and the 3rd highest 4-day gross of all time. Since it did come out during the President's Day weekend, it had that 4-day gross to be able to make money. And just this week, Black Panther actually jumped into the 10th spot on the all-time worldwide box office, beating out Disney's own film, Frozen. When it comes to its domestic box office is where it really has reigned as king, though, because Black Panther is now in the top 5, and it has beat out some fellow Disney films such as Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and it has beat out some fellow Marvel films such as the original Avengers and Civil War and Avengers: Age of Ultron. I want to share a quote that I have from the IMAX CEO, Greg Foster, which he said in an interview, and he said, "Representation matters. Get Out, Wonder Woman, Coco, and now Black Panther show Hollywood that authenticity and inclusiveness wins." And that cannot be more true. I think that over the past year we have seen that when representation is put up on screen, that it can succeed and it can make a lot of money at the box office, and that's why Hollywood should not hesitate to make more representative films for both the story being told in the film, but also giving jobs to people behind the camera that can really bring that representation in a more authentic way. So now that we've talked about these films that have succeeded over the past year, I'm going to go out and interview some people and kind of hear their own opinions about these films and about their movie-going experience and how the behind-the-camera talent really affects that.
I'm Kayla. I'm a cisgender female. I'm bisexual, and I'm Dominican.
I'm Willow. I'm
that's important too.
Black. Millennial to that tail end. It's like right before Gen Z. Queer as heck. And I like stories.
Okay, so the first question that I have for you is, what is your favorite movie of all time and why?
Twister. And I know it's super unpopular, but just because I fell in love with it when I was a kid, and it's always had a special place in my heart ever since then.
If I had to pick a few, it'd probably be Scott Pilgrim versus the World because of the animation and mixed in with like the live action. I think it's really funny. It's a pretty inclusive story. It's not as inclusive as the books are, but for the movie adaptation, it's pretty inclusive. And the 1997 Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella with Brandy and Whitney Houston because of the music.
Okay, what was the movie you saw most recently in the theater?
It was something disappointing that I won't remember. So I'll just go back further than that and say it was Black Panther, because it's the last thing I remember.
Most recently, I saw Love, Simon.
Who is your favorite director and why?
Wes Anderson, because his movies are so pretty. They're so pretty.
Off the top of my head, I'm gonna go with Wes Anderson because I feel like he has some really, really, really iconic visuals, and I like that he's done not only like live action type stuff, but some animation, and that you never lose that sense of like, oh, this is a Wes Anderson in that movie.
Who's your favorite screenwriter and why?
I actually don't have one.
I don't know a whole lot of screenwriters.
What movie are you going to see next in the theaters specifically, and why?
I really want to see A Quiet Place because the use of ASL throughout the whole movie I think is super interesting.
The next movie that I'm gonna see is A Quiet Place tomorrow.
And have you seen Black Panther? Yes, you have.
Yes,
because
I
you
have.
answered that question. And what brought you into the theater to see that movie specifically?
It was just really exciting to see like a black superhero, you know, because all of them look pretty much the same, if you catch my drift.
Oh boy, have I seen Black Panther. What brought me into the film? It's Black Panther. I'm kidding. I was really excited for seeing Africa in a new light.
And do you go to the movies because of the talent behind the camera?
Yes and no. I go because of the talent behind the camera, but also for everything that goes on in front of the camera.
Yes, more so the talent behind the camera.
Okay, so based on my research that I've found online, reading some articles about business and the way that movies have succeeded over the past couple of years, and speaking to some people out in the real world, I believe that I've found the real reason why these movies over the past couple of years have succeeded. And the reason for that is because of social media presence. So back in the day, before social media or the internet even existed, a movie had to rely on just word of mouth to be able to succeed weekend to weekend. Now, of course, the weekend box office was not as crowded back then, so movies could stay in the theater and succeed for months at a time, such as Star Wars or Jaws, the first summer blockbuster. But today, with the internet and social media, the word of mouth has changed drastically. Word of mouth is not just people going to dinner parties and telling their friends about a movie and how good it is, or people being like, hey, I saw this movie, do you want to come see it with me again? I really want to see it again. Today, it relies on social media. Anyone can write a review for a movie and put it on Twitter, on Facebook, on Tumblr, and anywhere on the internet. Anyone can make a video about Easter eggs in a film. Anyone can analyze a movie using their camera on their smartphone. There's so many ways that people can spread whether they liked or disliked a movie through word of mouth now with the internet. So based on my research, I think that if I want to be successful as a screenwriter in the industry in the future, I think it's going to be very important for me to have social media presence myself so that I can market myself as a writer and so that I can market my films to my audience. So, as part of my project, my artifact of sorts is going to be a YouTube channel where I will talk about movies and entertainment, television, and for the first video I've decided to take the movies that have all come out this year up to this point. It is April 17th, and I am going to be making a top 10 list of all the movies of the year so far. Now, of course, this list is not going to be set like these are the best movies and this is the right order or anything. This is just my personal opinion, but I think that it's a great way to start conversation on social media and really get my name out there. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you go check out my YouTube channel at Miller C. Lashbrook. And also, if you check in the description below, you can find a link to a how-to sheet on finding the right social media for you to project yourself onto the internet as a screenwriter. And I hope you have a great day.